Hey everyone, Zaraz here from Not Casuals. Today bringing you another video about Genshin Impact where I'm gonna go over the new Abyss floor 9 to 12 and how to team build in order to beat them. Now of course, I am not a free-to-play player, so I do not expect you guys to clear every level with 9 stars easily. It is not supposed to be easy, it is the end game content of this game, but I have managed to do so, and there are a few things that are very important when you're building your teams for these levels. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is the monster resistance of the mobs in the Abyss. Now, this is very important because when you are facing these types of mobs, it will be great if you bring the correct elements, because sometimes you will not realize that you are using the wrong DPS or the wrong element to beat some floors. Now, the main example of this is these Fetchui guys and this Sin Mage. Now, you have a lot of these in the late levels, especially this guy who has very high power resistance. While a lot of this stuff is cryo, this is a mob that is actually resistant to pyro. So if you have a lot of power DPS, you'll do well, except when fighting this guy. And same goes for the Sin Mages, which are obviously 50% resistance to their own element. So this one is 50% to electro, this one to cryo, and this one to pyro. That means that they will be taking a lot less damage from that element. On the other hand, though, they have minus 20% resistance to physical damage, so using physical DPS dealers such as Razor or Xinyan, for example, or some archers, you will do a lot more damage to these monsters. Now, before I go too far into this, one thing that is also very important to note is that if you are using the Viridescent Venerer set, which are obviously the best sets to use on animal support, such as Venti, such as Sucrose, or even the main character or Jean, using that set will take that amount minus 40%. So if you were to swirl electro against this mob, you will reduce its electro resistance to 10% instead of 50%, and so on for all of these monsters. So if you do not have the right DPS to deal with them, you can try and bring in animal support with that set to help you out instead. Now, that does not work against physical damage. For physical damage, for example, when you're fighting the Rune Guard who has 70%, or the Metatrolls who have 30%, or this one with 50%, you want to do Superconduct, which will reduce their resistance to physical damage. So that will help you very much in terms of doing more damage. So that is cryo and electro mixed together as a combination in their faces so that you can start beating them up. Now, as far as all other mobs go, it is also good to see that they all have about 10% resistance to most elements. Now, if you are using the Viridescent Venerer set, you will be able to take these values to negative. So a mob with 10% resistance to fire, for example, in this case, if you use the Viridescent Venerer with a fire effect, you will be taking their resistance to minus 15%, because when you go into the minus, you take less resistance off, basically meaning that you will do quite a lot more damage to these monsters. So again, the Viridescent Venerer set is absolutely amazing, and so are characters like Venti, Sucrose, and the MC for grouping up all these mobs when you are fighting a lot of them at once. Though it is not required, I have cleared last level 11 and 12 without using any animal characters at all, and it was still doable, so you do not need these characters to go through the Abyss. Now, as far as all the other mobs go, of course, it will depend on what they are. There is not a lot of specific stuff. In a team, you should have quite a few elements, so when you're dealing with these guys, it won't really matter as long as you have the element to break their shields. So, for example, of course, the cryo mages and the hydro mages, you will want pyro to break the cryo, or cryo and electro to break the hydro. You also have other stuff that will break these shields. These are just the best elements to deal with them. And same goes for the Fetchui guys. Now, it is good to know that to break the cryo shield, obviously pyro works. To break the hydro shield, cryo and electro both work. And to break electro shields, cryo is the best element. So for this guy, who is probably one of the strongest Fetchui guys in the game. And lastly, for the Geo Shanter, you can use a Claymore, you can use Geo, or you can use Overload to really easily break the shield. Now, if you want to have access to this image, I will put a link in the description that will link you to a Reddit thread that I made where I post this link on Reddit, as well as it will be available on the Not Casuals Discord server, where I will be sharing it in the usual channel where I share all of these infographic stuff that I make. While I'm talking about the Discord, make sure to go and check it out if you are interested. We have Genshin Impact giveaways going on every month, as well as we stream every single day, which is how we do the giveaways. So if you're interested, make sure to subscribe and come to see us on our Discord. We would really appreciate it. Now next, I'm going to go over the levels quickly. Now I'm going to use these infographics that were made by the user on Reddit, RydenReckless, as well as on Twitter, RydenReckless. You can find him in the description as well if you'd like to follow him. He has made these infographics for the previous levels as well, and they're very, very useful when you're planning your team. So I recommend you to check him out and check these infographics and save them to your device for future use. So for Chamber 9, of course, it shows you what is coming. There is a lot of small monsters in this. So the recommendation, of course, being fire. You need fire in both teams because there's a lot of cryo shields, and you will need cryo in this team, as written here, to deal with the Fetchui shields, as well as you will need probably a Nemo if you have it in this area, because in the first floor there is going to be a lot of small monsters. So if you can group them up to do some AoE damage, it will help you tremendously. Other than that though, it's really just a cryo floor. So if you have a lot of fire and at least one cryo character here, you will deal with this quite easily. Just make sure to keep track of this mob here and this mob here. As you can see, this little icon, that means that they will have the special aura under their feet that will spawn the ice prison under you. And if you've been in the abyss before, you know that this ice prison will F you up. Now next, for Chamber 10, again, this one is a very cryo heavy chamber where you have an insane amount of cryo mobs here and a lot of mobs here, as well as you have a cryo Assassin Mage with the ice prison aura, and you have another one here without the aura, as well as you have the big ass monsters, lava troll, whatever they're called, with the cryo aura as the last monster here. So again, this monster is not too bad to deal with because if you are good at iframing or dodging, his attack animations are very slow, so they're pretty easy to dodge. But just make sure that you bring a lot of fire character in this area, and if you have it, an animal character here will definitely prove valuable. Now, last thing to note about Chamber 9 and Chamber 10 is that the leyline disorder is the same, and it is sheer cold, so the same as Dragon Spine. You will accumulate a cold factor over time, and there will be sealies and little fire platforms that you can go beside to warm up. So nothing new there, you should be used to it by now, but just to note that make sure to be careful about that when you are in these levels. Now moving on to Chamber 11, this is probably the hardest chamber of them all, much harder than Chamber 12. The leyline disorder here is Engulfing Storm, which drains your energy, so this will make your ults very hard to cast because this is very, very annoying, as well as it will provide you with 75% cryo damage. So in here, if you have cryo characters, bring them, they will shine the best, and they are required to break some of the Fetchui shields, of course, here. Now, one thing to note here is that the second chamber is actually the hard one. In this one, you will have to defend the middle from getting hit. Now, in the first chamber, there's a lot of archers that spawn, but they kind of spawn all on the same corners, one after the other. So when you kill some will start respawning, but they won't spawn until you've killed the previous ones. So if you have pretty high DPS and you are using abilities well, you will be able to go through the packs of mobs one after the other. Now, the one thing that is really important to note here is when they spawn, which way they're facing. If they're facing you and they're attacking you, that's good. If they're attacking the middle, you need to kill them before they attack too fast or get their aggro on you. So this is something that you'll have to learn. There are also a lot of guides on YouTube, specifically Enviosity's guides, which are the best ones for the Abyss, which will show you exactly which mobs to hit first when you are wanting to get the highest percentage, or basically the highest amount of stars in these levels. Now, the big kicker here is the second floor, which has the Assassin Mage, which is very annoying because she has the Electro Aura. This Electro Aura will spawn a little V of electricity on the floor, and if she spawns it close to the middle, it will literally destroy the middle instantly almost. It does a lot of damage to it, and you will definitely not get many stars there. So the biggest trick in this level is to fight away from the middle, especially when she's there, and you want to make sure she doesn't teleport to the middle. So you might have to do a few tries. It took me 2 tries to 9-star this level, and it is really not easy because of that little lady, as well as the mobs that they spawn, the treasure hunters. Most of them will ignore the middle and attack you, and the ones that attack the middle, such as the ones who have a shovel and throw dirt, are basically useless. They almost do no damage at all, so it is not important. You just have to make sure that the big guys really don't attack the middle at all, because they do insane amount of damage. But for the most part, they will be focused on you. So keep them focused on you, keep them killed. If you can freeze them by using Hydro and Cryo, they will be frozen and won't be able to attack much. So that will help you tremendously. So again, the recommendations here is Cryo here for sure. I would recommend Hydro and Cryo for freezing. It is very useful. And in here, you obviously want Cryo as well for the shields here. And if you have any Anemo supports that CC, such as Venti or Sucrose, as I said before, this will do very well here because there's a lot of monsters, as well as Electro will really be helpful here for a lot of the slimes and the hydro mage here, and this guy here who has a water shield. So you can deal with him with only cryo, but electro will do well here because of the fact that it does a lot of AoE damage as well with electro charge. So if you have these, you will be doing better in this level, but it is not an easy level and will take a lot of practice for people to clear it fully if they're not wailing out on items and characters. Now lastly, floor 12, which is supposed to be the hardest floor, but actually is probably the easiest floor of the last two. Now the leyline disorder is nothing, you just gain 75% geo damage, which is actually insane because there's no malices, which makes this level very easy for that reason. Now the first floor here is all hilichurls. They don't do anything special, you just have to kill them. There's nothing to do here, it's really simple. These are the basic mobs of the game. Same here, treasure hunters. They are very easy to dodge, they have very slow attack speed, and they are very clunky in their mechanism, so they're really easy to deal with. Now here, the last one, obviously, again, it's the same type of mobs, except there's a Assassin Mage. Now she's level 100, so she hits hard and she takes a long time to kill, but there's only a few mobs here, so it's really not that many mobs to deal with. So Geo does very well in this level, of course, because you gain 75% damage. And here, Anemo will do well to group out the mobs, but there's really nothing. I would recommend physical damage dealers because these mobs all take more physical damage, especially the human kinds. So all humanoid mobs, all the treasure hunters, all the assassin mage, all the fetch shuis, they all take extra physical damage. So if you have a physical damage dealer, it will do very well here. Electro will not do well against her, so if you have Electro, try and not use your strongest Electro in this team because it will be more valuable in the second team. Now, speaking of the second team, these are quite simple. We've dealt with these mobs many times before. What you really need is an archer, for sure, for this mob, because he will be in the air a lot, so if you have no ways of reaching him, it will be hard to kill. You can also use like the pillars from Zhongli or GOMC to climb up and sometimes be able to attack them. And they have wood animation where they'll sometimes fall to the floor. If you can freeze them on the floor with Hydro and Cryo, you will be able to hit them a lot. And same for the Rune Guard. All you need to do is hit his eye with an Archer charge shot twice in a row, then he'll fall to the floor and you'll be able to kill him quite easily that way. Now, the second chamber has two of these assassins. Now, they are resistant to fire, so Pyro. So do not try and use Pyro in here because you will not do a lot of damage to them. You can still bring a power character, it's not like it's terrible. And if you have an animal character with Viridescent Venerer, you will do a lot more damage to them. But literally any other element than power will deal with these mobs a lot easier than anything else. And same goes for here. This one is level 100, so he's very strong, but anything that you have that is not pyro will deal very good damage to them. Physical damage, again, will deal with them very well, and Viridescent Venerer will help you otherwise. So guys, that's about it for my video. Of course, I'm just kind of recapping what is required or not and what can help in terms of element, reaction, and stuff. So if you need any of this information and these guides, they're all going to be in the description so you can consult them for yourself. Now, there's no magic trick to the Abyss. Other than using the right element and team comps, most of the Abyss is basically a gear check. But considering how terrible the artifact system is in this game and how long you can farm to get absolutely nothing, it is something that will be relating on luck a lot more than skill for how this game works. I hope this video could prove some usefulness for you guys. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope that I'll see you on the next video.